Oh, it's kind of vibey. All right, we're going live. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great guest tonight. Thank you for joining us on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook. We're about to go live on Amazon, so stay tuned for that. Jim is looking and he's pointing. That means we're going. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Lisoskie, Dealcasters Live. Keep your content relatable. Here we go. Earth, welcome to Dealcasters Live. My name is Chris Stone at castahead.net. And the gorgeous gentleman on the right-hand side of your screen, doing marketing the Marine Corps way from Fusion Marketing, Dr. Jim Fuse. How are you, sir?
I'm doing, well, as you probably know, I'm still like on, I don't even know what cloud to call it, cloud 9, from this past weekend. I probably watch multiple times a day. I think I actually call it the Hail Jaden. And,
No, you don't.
I do, because he's amazing. Right. But yeah, so for those of you that live under a rock, the greatest play that I've seen in person in sports was when Jaden Daniels threw a Hail Mary with no time left on the clock against the Dub Bears to win the game when everybody almost thought the game was over. But now there's hope. And as we used to say in the Orioles bullpen when I watched the Orioles. So that was a lot of fun. And I'm going to say it publicly. So my wife is going to get credit. I was ready for us to start walking down the steps. She's like, "Nope, we're not leaving." And God bless her. That's probably one of the reasons why I married her. She's like, "I will never leave a concert or a sports event early." She's like, I may be a girl, but I will not do that. So just remember that if you go somewhere with the Fuse family, we're not leaving early.
Well, you spend all that money, you make all that effort, you get all that way there. You got to stay to the final. If there's a little bit, if it's 52-14, which was the Lions-Titans score,
yes,
then you of course can leave, right? But there was still a chance, right, for a Hail Mary, and so kudos to Karen for keeping Jim Fuse in his seat to be able to watch a historic event. Yeah, man, that was pretty awesome, and of course, the Bears being in the Lions division, I was very happy to see that. So awesome. And so for those of you who are tuning in to Dealcasters for the first time, welcome in. We appreciate you joining us. And you're probably, if you're joining us, you've seen, somehow you got here because you're curious about what's happening in the world of video and content creation. And we have a fantastic guest brought to you from our friend over here, Jim Fuse, who brought Peter to us to talk about Relatable today. So, sit back, grab your favorite beverage of choice here, coffee, water. We're not going to judge no matter what you're drinking. And if you really want to be a part of this whole thing, and eventually, maybe our guest and we will talk about products that are available that will help you along the way in your content creation journey. We're over on Amazon Live. Yes, Amazon has live streams, and we love to be a part of that. So if you want to come on over to Amazon and look at the books that Peter Lisoskie is into, and the items that he may be talking about throughout the course of his journey. It's here on Amazon, and you can pick those up. And so we make it easy for you. You can just open up a browser and go to dealcasters.live, and that'll bring you right into this show. And we could hang out here on Amazon. There's a chat over here as well. And if you want to do that, please feel free to do that. And if you don't want to do that, you can hang out on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook and all the other places as well. So we will.
Yeah. And I did put a note, because I know not just us. There's been a lot of people having issues with LinkedIn Live. So if you happen to be, you wouldn't be on LinkedIn, but I put in the comments on our event on LinkedIn the link to the YouTube so people can catch this, because that apparently is starting to become a thing. So LinkedIn, even though you're not hearing us, how about getting your act together with the live video?
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Jim, let's roll into our guest, because I'm
Yes.
excited to really get into this and chop it up with our guest, because this is something that I think a lot of people are curious about. Like, how do I really create relationships online with video?
Yes, and Peter Lisoskie is not only the founder of Relatable, but he's also started the company that Relatable's under, iProlio. But he's an amazing guy. I feel fortunate that I connected with him actually through Mary Catherine Johnson, who is like I guess we call her the chief marketing officer. She's actually works in our partnership program with Relatable, and I've become a part of the Relatable team, is now the grand brand ambassador, because we're making some changes of what we're focusing on. But Peter has an amazing background. He worked for Hewlett Packard. He worked for Nike. He's been in some other SaaS startups. So this isn't new to him. But what is new is, and what I learned about from Peter is one, reading the book Play Bigger, and then another one called Snow Leopard. It's about category design. And so what Relatable is, it's not just interactive video, it's interactive video relationship software, and we're the first in that category. And so it's kind of like when people start talking about, and this is what you get out of like reading Snow Leopard. Google is a search engine. Perplexity is an answer engine. So for Google to try to become an answer engine, that's not what they're good at. And so they're kind of behind the power curve, because Perplexity's built itself from the start as an answer engine, and it's a new category. So these are some of the things that I've been learning, getting to hang around Peter and his brilliance. He knows all about like human psychology. But enough of talking about this amazing man. Let's bring him on.
Welcome to Dealcasters, Peter.
Thank you. And I just got to say that the Detroit Lions are Category 1, and they will go to the Super Bowl and they will win. And I'm from Detroit, so there you go.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. You're automatically our best guest ever. Way to go.
There you go.
Yeah. And we have a lot of fun talking about sports, because, Peter actually has quite the background in baseball, and used to run an actual, well, I'll let Peter tell us a little bit about what he did with baseball, because I've always been fascinated with that.
Baseball was, kind of a thing of, I'll tell you a quick story. So when I was in high school and I was playing ball, the football coach approached me one day, and we had to play other sports, because I played basketball too. But our basketball coach always said, "Hey, if you're going to play basketball," because we were a shorter team. I think the tallest guy was like 6'5" on the team. He goes, "You guys got to get in shape, because we're going to run up and down the court." So I tried cross country one year, and I said, "Nuts to that! I'm not running around like a fool." So I went and did soccer, and I got to be pretty good. I made the varsity there the first year I did it. And, this is back when Paley was around, and we used to play in cow pastures and jump over cow pies and stuff like that. But the football coach came to me one day, because he saw me. I was left wing, and I was going up the side and crossing it. He came up, he goes, "Hey, you ever thought about playing football? You could be our kicker." And I said, "Coach," I said, "here's the thing." I said, "I'll tell you what's going to happen." I said, "If those big linemen on the other side of that team come across the line and they're not blocked, I'm picking the ball up and running the other way. So you probably don't want me as kicker." He goes, "No, I don't think so." I stuck with baseball. I played baseball in college, and then coached for about 20 years. We had it was Northwest Baseball Academy. We had about 372 guys that played college ball from D1 to JUCO. And then a couple guys, you guys know John Lester. He came through our organization from the Red Sox.
Wow.
Bobby Jenks, who was one of the first that broke the triple digit mark. He came through. That's a whole, that would be a whole show in itself, talking about all those things that happened over the years with baseball. But that's my background Jim was referring to.
That's amazing. And so I think a lot of people that tune into our show and our audience, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of small business owners. A lot of people are, and some, Peter, are maybe podcasters that are maybe a little fearful of clicking on the camera and figuring out how to do it, whether it's a big camera or their phone. And I think, when a new, it seems like you wake up every day and there's 16 new AI pieces of software and a couple of video pieces of software that all kind of do the same thing. But you are not just somebody who just jumped into this thing, yesterday. You've got a history, and I think it's something like 18 or something patents that you've got under your name, and you've been on the sort of the tech forefront for well over 30 years. So at this point, what's different now, and what you're seeing now in tech versus what you saw maybe 20, 30 years ago?
Oh, well, 20, 30 years ago, we were using corded phones going around the corner to get privacy. But, Chris and Jim, I look at things as far as big socio-economic or what we call megatrends. You guys know megatrends. In tech, internet's a megatrend, cell phones are a megatrend. Last I checked, there's 96.2% of the population of the 8 billion people in the world, they have a cell phone. Yeah. So these are things that they're just, they're not going to stop. But there's these things called socioeconomic megatrends, and I'm always looking to see what changes or shifts have occurred out there, right? So before I started with Relatable, because one of our mantras, Jim knows this, one of the questions we always ask in my company is what else is possible? And that leads us to a lot of innovation and inspiration. But these 4 trends, the first, and when I say these, because we talk to a lot of people, Jim does too in our company, and everybody, when they hear them, they go, yep, that's true. So the first one is nobody wants to be sold anymore. Everybody wants to buy. And I tell people, I did a post on LinkedIn, which was really popular. I said, look, you guys, if you're in marketing and you want to know kind of how people are approaching things, your best marketing tool ever, it's like a genie in a lamp, is called a mirror. All you got to do is go find a mirror in your house, look yourself in the mirror and ask one question: how do I buy? And if you answer, I go online and do research. I always say, don't you think your customers and clients are doing that too? And so if you look at that mega trend has already shifted. And what that means is, and you're seeing it in the statistics, this is why email marketing is dying, sales funnels are dying, cold calling is dying, because people have shifted away from a sales funnel to a buyer's funnel. And so we are no longer, or we're moving away from the attention economy and lead generation, which is defined as I invite you into my sales process and persuade you to buy, to the relationship economy, which is already here, and demand gen, which is I am invited into the buyer's process when they're ready to buy. Okay. But to do that, you have to go through awareness, consideration to get to readiness. And you also need to pay attention and build relationships and trust and things like that. So that's the first shift. The second shift is people want to build relationships with people. You guys know the old timeless phrase. And I tell people all the time, I don't care how much AI we have, how much tech we have, and I've been in tech my whole life. People do business with people they like, know, and trust. We all know that saying. The other one I add to it is people share businesses with people they like, know, and trust. And so if you look at what's going on in the second shift, HubSpot did a study last year, Chris and Jim, and what they found is that 70% of all consumers, they don't care about companies and brands as much as they want direct interaction through video with the CEO or founder or head honcho. That means I don't care if you're a solopreneur or you're a Fortune 500 CEO, you better get in front of that camera and talk to your customers, because that is what they're looking for nowadays. You can't hide behind your brand. You can't hide behind your marketing or your PR. You got to get out there. So that's another shift. The third shift is, you guys know this, one size fits all marketing just doesn't cut it anymore. People want personal and relevant. And so that's what we did in Relatable, is we let them choose their own experience or adventure through video while they're interacting. Because, Chris, what may be a priority for you may not be a priority for Jim or me. So you got to give them the ability to choose their own adventure or their own experience that's personal and relevant to them. And then fourth, the last thing, people are not looking for a monologue anymore. They don't want talk at you. That's email marketing. That's even passive video. Passive video is going to be like the 8-track tape coming up in the future, just like 8-track went to cassette and all the way to cloud, because people do not want to talk at you. They want dialogue. They don't want monologue. They want interaction. They want engagement. And more importantly, people want to be listened to and heard. In all of the stuff in social media these days, no one is listening. It's a bunch of noise out there. But people are wanting, they're craving this ability to be listened to and to be heard. It's kind of like, product reviews and things like that. Well, so those 4 behaviors, all I did is I said, well, okay, that, and also how do humans form relationships, that all got put into the product that we have today called Relatable.
Yeah, and it's, Chris, I think, I've told you, it's blown me away, not only what it is doing, but the development of Relatable and how it's really, making a difference. And I think a lot of it is, when Peter talks about this a lot, and Peter, I'd love you to go into this more, is we kind of like have these 2 sets of people. We are actually what we call the native analogs. We didn't grow up with technology. Where the younger folks, and I don't know what age that starts at, they're the native digitals, right? They grew up with a phone or tablet in their hand, and it's just natural to them to use technology. And so, us older folks have to realize that as their buying power grows, how are we going to relate to them? So Peter, you want to kind of go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. That's a good point. That's really it's kind of a clash, but it doesn't have to be. It can be more of an integration between the native analogs, all of us guys that were born before the internet and cell phones, right? I mean, if you think about it, the iPhone came out in 2007. What is that, 17 years ago? Not a long time. It seems like it was 40 or 50 by the rate of change of technology. Yeah. But the cool thing is that this is the overarching that kind of is the umbrella on these 4 behaviors that I talked about. So these native digitals, they're 51% of the global population. And when I discovered that, I was like, wow, I did not know that. And they're growing. They're 35 and younger. Their primary reality, Jim and Chris, is the digital realm. They're tourists in the physical world. Whereas us analogs, our primary reality is the physical world, and we're tourists in the digital realm. Now, here's the thing, is you look at that, what's happened is because they are the global majority and they're growing, they're all about interaction and community. This is why you're seeing all these communities popping up everywhere, because they're driving this, okay? So that's another, if you look at that, that was the other thing that I looked at and I said, okay, this is not going away. They're actually the ones that are heralding in the relationship economy. They're the ones that are driving all this, not us old analogs. You know what we did, right? We invented the internet, and then we said, oh, we got this stuff we used to watch called radio and TV. Well, we'll take that ad set and we'll plop it right on the internet. That's the business model that we've had for years, right? Because we didn't know any better. And these guys come along. I mean, I don't know, if you guys have kids or anything, but if you look at kids in their 20s and up, where are they? They're hanging out in Discord. They're playing video games with their friends all over the world. That's how they live. If you don't know, if you don't have kids, you don't know a native digital. Native digital will come to your door. They'll sit in the car and they'll text you and go, I'm here. They would never think to go to the door and knock on it. That's like, what are you talking about? Why do I have to go to your door? But this is the thing that's happened. And because of all of that, this is what's driving all these changes that are happening in the economy and around the world globally.
So I love this, because I think this is a great bridge piece for people who are native analogs like ours and want to create communities in the digital space, right? I think that is just such a huge disconnect for a lot of people that we talk to, Peter, is, like, oh, I had a Facebook group and I was doing this and I have this and I have that, but they don't have a real, a real practical way of of reaching the people that are their audience and pulling them in. And I feel like Relatable is a way for them to be very specific to a specific group of people and say, hey, I'm creating a community here, whether it's on Discord or, wherever it is, Mighty Networks. I mean, name throw a rock, Uscreen, throw a rock, and you're gonna hit that. But I feel like this is a great bridge piece for people to be able to do that. Are you seeing that with customers of Relatable that are creating these communities?
Yeah. So, and one thing just to kind of back up just a half step, Chris, on that is, as you guys know, nowadays the native digitals are driving this too. Everybody is watching or listening. Hence why you guys have this live. You're not writing a white paper about what you're doing in Dealcasters, right? In fact, the native digitals invented an acronym called TLDR. Too long, didn't read, right? So
right.
we're doing video and we're doing audio. Podcasts exist because you can't watch a video while you're driving a car or running, because you're probably going to either trip and fall and hurt yourself or you're going to crash your car. So podcasts have their place, but all this video stuff has its place too. So when you look at Relatable, what we did is we said, Jim talked about interactive video relationships. And so I want to make the distinction because this is why it's a category. Because when I looked at relationships, I said, okay, well, how do we form human relationships, right? If you guys have a significant other, you're married, you have another person in your life that's significant, think about it this way, right? You go through awareness, connection, and engagement. Now, if you think about that, guys, that's where Facebook, LinkedIn, everything stops. You can't go beyond engagement in social realms, okay? But in order to develop a relationship, you got to go further. There has to be nurturing, trust building, respect, and then for us three guys, it's affinity. If it's a personal relationship, it's intimacy. This is how we do it. So when I looked at this and I said, okay, there's about 20 or 25 interactive video companies out there. They do questions, they do branching, they do all this stuff. The problem with it is it does not match the megatrend behaviors, because what they're doing is they're taking you from point A to point B. So Chris, that's like you, Jim knows this because I use this analogy a lot, but Chris, if you have a significant other, that's like you going out on the first date with a significant other. At the end of the day, you drop to one knee and go, hey, you want to get married? Right. I mean, we don't do that as humans, So this is where the relationship piece is. What we did in Relatable is, first of all, I said, well, it's got to be built for the phone. And I always say Relatable is easy enough where all you need is your face, phone, and finger. Because I've traveled all over the world. I've been all over the Middle East. I've been all over Asia, all over Europe, all over South America. And what I learned as a younger man is, and even today, is you get outside the United States, most people are on their phones, even for business. They don't have desktops or laptops. Their phone is everything. It's their business device, their communication device, their entertainment device. It's everything. And the fact that there's 96% of the population. But secondly, what I wanted to do is I said, well, okay, how do we create these relationships? How do we nurture? So if you remember what I said, everybody wants personal and relevant, and choose your own experience. So people come into Relatable in the software app. There are questions. There are in-screen interactions. Those could be buttons, hotspots, icons, interactives. We call them touchables. But what we do is we track in the software their answers and actions, and then the person who's building these relatables can serve up other interactive video content that is personal and relevant to that person's answers and actions. That's what builds the engagement, the dialogue, the being heard, and the relationship aspect of it. We also can re-engage and reconnect where they pause watching, because, look, a lot of times life gets in the way. Your baby's crying. You have to go to a meeting. The phone rings, right? But you really like watching the video or interacting with it. And you don't want to go back and start from the beginning, because we just don't have the attention span to do that anymore. So we built that in too. And we're the first in the world to really pay attention to not just interactives, but interactives with relationship building in mind, because we're in the relationship economy and we need to support how do you nurture and build trust and accelerate relationships while you are creating demand, because that's the second piece, is it's no longer lead gen, it's demand generation that we're creating. We attract people to our products and services. We don't sell people our products and services anymore. Because you guys know, right? Think about it. When you go to somebody and they, when you go to a sales funnel, you're going to get sold, and your BS meter is at an all-time high. It's like, I am not doing that, right? We're all like that. We have AI blockers on our phone for all the robocalls and all the salespeople that are trying to get a hold of us. And frankly, I feel bad for SDRs and BDRs now. And I've talked to a lot of them, and they're frustrated as hell because they can't get good leads anymore. They can't get a hold of people anymore. Nobody, they shut you out. In fact, I'll give you another stat. The RAIN group, which is a large research group like Gartner, they did a study last year, and they found out, Chris and Jim, 72% of all B2B buyers never want to talk to a salesperson, even for enterprise sales. 72%. I mean, so you have to really stop and pause and go, maybe, and I've talked to so many CEOs and founders where they admit to me, hey, my email marketing is not working. My sales funnels aren't working. What do I do? Right? Their revenue is starting to dip. They're starting to panic. And this is all because of what has happened in this shift that's already happened.
Yeah, the sales gig, to your point, whether it's cold calling, I mean, how many times are you looking at your phone, you're seeing a number you don't recognize, and you're like, and you're like, okay, I'm a business owner, I'm a small business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to answer it because it might be something that could, and then eventually you're like, oh God, why am I in this?
The letdown when it happens.
Yes. It's like, why am I doing this? So how can Relatable work with companies that are doing this cold outreach? Like what are some practical ways that they can use Relatable to be more than just these cold call, sending out 300 cold calls and maybe getting one person to pick up?
Yeah. Well, we can go through a couple use cases. I don't know, Jim, does it make sense? We can talk about podcasts, and we can also talk about just in general what you're talking about, Chris. So if you have time, it'll only be 3 minutes. I'll cover both. So you guys all know, I mean, I don't care where you go. We all live on LinkedIn because we're B2B, but you can go YouTube, you can go to Instagram, you can go to X, wherever you want to go, Facebook. There's fishing holes out there, right? And people congregate around those fishing holes. So what I say to people is, what you have to do is you need to start the demand gen process up in awareness. And you can use relatables to express your different. Jim mentioned a little bit about category design. We can get into that. But here's the thing. There's hundreds of thousands of SaaS founders like me. There's hundreds of thousands of fractionals, consultants, coaches, whatever you are. So, and you guys know this to be true. The world does not need a better mousetrap. We have too many choices, just too many. So whatever you're creating, a product or service, you better make it different. That's going to stand out. And then you're creating in the category design what's called a unique point of view story. Okay, which is, here is how you're unique and different. Here's the story, the origin story. Jim and I did that, and we have a whole show on YouTube about that for Relatable. But you also say, here's what I stand for and here's what I stand against. You guys have heard me already in the show. I stand against email marketing, cold calling, sales funnels. I stand against customers as thought of as transactions and wallets and not people and relationships. And so you have to do that. And when you do that, the next thing you're doing is what's called change of perspective in category design. And change of perspective from a sales standpoint, Chris and Jim, is really, it's your bridge. It's how do you get them from their hell to your heaven? So in Relatable, what we do is we will go out, I post, you can build in Relatables in LinkedIn posts, in LinkedIn comments, in LinkedIn DMs. And I'll give you an example. We have a partner program. Jim mentioned Mary Catherine. She runs our partner program. We have a lady that's a CEO. She does a lot of AI tool development and things like that. She developed a Relatable Interactive that basically was a diagnostic tool and talked to people about their key pains, right? And so then basically those key pains came into buttons. And one of them was too long a sales cycle, which I picked. And that went over to, it wasn't like a YouTube short. It was like a 5 to 7 minute video. And at the end, what she does is she said, hey, if this resonates with you and you want to find out more about what we do, go ahead and tap on this upcoming button that's in screen and you can set a meeting. Now, here's the results she's getting. She's been doing this quite a bit. She sends these out in LinkedIn to DMs that are just connected with her. So they are cold. She's getting 70% to set meeting rate. Now, I don't know about you, but even with DM text, I don't know anybody who's getting that, because she's there, she's talking, she's engaging, she's asking them to interact. She's addressing these change of perspectives in the bridge, and then taking that and just doing a simple frictionless in-screen button, right? So that's an example there where you can go out to any of these. You can do these awareness. The other ones, when you get to consideration, it's use cases, it's competitor playbooks, it's customer success stories. All these can be relatables. But here's the thing, when you do that, we have a thing called a home element. You could have them come in and go in consideration, say, well, what do you want to learn about? Do you want to learn about use cases, frequently asked questions? Do you want to learn about customer success stories? Do you want to learn about price? Let them choose. And so they're doing this all in video experiences. But if it was me as a SaaS founder, I'm guiding them through this. They're getting to know me, the CEO and founder. They're getting to know how I interact and talk with people, which is the key thing, right? So that's where it gets very powerful, okay? So that's the one. Now, over on podcasting, and Jim is putting together all kinds of templates for us now. So we have this other thing called reminders, because in my world of software, there's 3 key elements that we need to do as a SaaS founder. Number one, we got to make this thing super easy and intuitive. You've heard of UX and UI, right? So people have to be able to come in and intuitively go, oh, okay, I know how this thing works, right? Keep it simple. Right. Secondly, you have to teach them, you have to get them from point A to point B as fast as possible. In other words, they got to be able to do, think of, I always use the analogy, think of Excel. You remember when Excel came out 25 years ago, people could go into Excel and they could add up numbers and do sums and averages and things like that. Well, Excel, if you want to, can do a whole financial and statistical modeling, but it's easy. You can start with something, get from point A to point B and go, hey, I accomplished something. Then the third thing is, this is where reminders comes in. It's got to be sticky. Any product has to be sticky, which means it gets used over and over and over again. Think about, like your mics and things that you guys sell on Amazon. Whatever product you pick, that product has to be good enough in the different use cases for the person to go, that's my go-to mic. I'm using that thing over and over again. It's got stickiness, right? And they're probably going to keep it and they're going to use it, and they're not going to go to another mic because they love it and it works, right? So this whole thing with reminders, I came up with this idea of like, well, how could we create something that is sticky? So here's an example for you guys in live or in podcast. You can create a system where you come on and you're talking to them in an interactive, and you're saying, hey, I'm glad you're here. Maybe you're new to my show. If you are, would you like to I'm just going to give you some content shorts. You don't have to listen to the whole thing because you don't want to invest that time, right? People are like, I don't know Dealcasters. I don't even know if it's any good. So I want to listen to the top content. So you go, you want to listen to this content piece, this one, or this one. You give them 4 choices. Then they're shorts. They're like a minute. So they tap on the button. They go listen to that. And then you could say, well, hey, do you want to go back and listen to another one? Or would you like to now go to that show? Or would you like to sign up to listen to our show on a regular basis? So they can either go back to the home and listen to another one, or they can tap on what's called a reminder button. That reminder button will take them to their calendar. They can add it to Google Calendar, to Apple Calendar, or to Outlook. And it can be set for a certain amount of time, or it could be set for repeat forever. So you guys could have them on your calendar. And here's what's really cool about this, Chris and Jim, is when they get that reminder, the reminder comes in as a push notification, not an email, because our inboxes are ruined. Everybody sees push notifications on their phone, and it's there on your iPhone or your Android phone. And all they do is they tap on the reminder, up pops a screen there's a custom message that the person who did the relatable reminder is in there, and there's a link. But the beauty about that link is another relatable interactive. So now you can say, hey, this is Chris. I'm here with Dealcasters Live. I'm glad you guys put this on the show, or you put this on your reminder calendar. If you want to listen to the whole show, we just dropped it yesterday. Here's a button. It'll take you right to the show. Now you can even do more reminders to have them come back, and you can say, look, you listened to the show. This is another reminder. I just want to ask you in another relatable, what did you like? What didn't you like? What other content would you like to hear from us so we can line up other guests that match with what you're wanting to hear? So now lives, podcasts, they're no longer a talk at you. They're an interactive experience where the audience can grow and their voice can be heard, you see? And so this is where it gets very, very powerful. Now, the backside, which is the one Jim's putting together for you guys, is you guys got products and you got services, right? You got done for you services on how to set up lives and do things like that for companies. And you also have products that you sell. So when you build you can ask for an opt-in too, and you could say, hey, if you want to join our community, just go ahead and opt in. That can be in any one of these interactives that you're doing in sequence. But then what you're doing is you're coming back to them and you're re-engaging them and saying, hey, if you like our show Dealcasters Live and you want to know a little bit more about what we do in our business model, would you like to learn about the products we sell, or would you like to learn about the services that we do and how we help other businesses just like you be able to go live? Let them choose. And when they choose, they're going over to your products in Amazon, or they're going to your live services, which could be yet another interactive where you can ask them questions and do diagnosis to determine, do they need a do-it-yourself, a done with you, or a done for you, if you have that kind of model, right? But the whole idea here is these interactives, you can use them for the entire customer journey. It's not just for marketing and getting customers. You can use it for support, for audience growth, for customer loyalty, for fans and ambassadors. It covers the entire spectrum.
See, now it makes sense, Jim. Like all it took was Peter to get on our show for this all to make sense.
I told you that he could do it better.
No, but I mean, so my mind goes a million miles an hour. And so when you're going through these things, for me, if I'm a small business owner and I'm an entrepreneur, there's so many tools out there, and all of them you're separated from them. It's a if this then that CRM type of deal where there's text being launched here and there's text being launched here. This is more of a, let me really get into understanding my key consumer's journey and understanding, like, if you're here, you're either going to go here or you're going to go here. So let me create experiences for you in video that actually serves people, right? It's very personal and very human, as opposed to something that is just launched from Salesforce or ConvertKit or all of these things that are the if this then that kind of thing. And so if you set these up, Peter, you could literally get this set up and have it, scale properly, right? You're not wasting your time with a bunch of potential people that really aren't your customer, right?
Exactly.
They really might not like or trust you.
Exactly. And that's when I was thinking about this, because look, we're here, the three of us, right? I can't, I'm on radio, I can talk to people, but I can't see them. They hear my voice. This is better because we can see, but it's the three of us, right? So that's great. Or, the best is I'd love to fly out, Chris, and have dinner with you. Same with Jim. But I got to get in the plane. I got to fly out. I got to spend the money. I got to spend the time. I can't scale that, right? So I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, how can I do what you just said, Chris, where I can plug in, I can be relatable, I can be genuine, authentic, but more importantly, I can reach across the aisle and I can have their voice be heard, because that's what people are looking for now. And how do I do that? I always say it's like having a coffee chat with 100,000 people at a time, right? Because what I just explained in the podcast or lives or webinars, whatever you do in the digital realm, you can do it in the physical realm. Bricks and mortars. Think of dentists inviting people in for their 6-month cleaning. HVAC companies. In the fall, you got to get your furnace done. In the spring, you got to get your air conditioning done. This is all basically you set it up once and you forget it, and it runs like a machine. But the machine is always that founder and owner talking to their customer base. So they get to know them. They get to be heard. They get to interact with them. That's the power of Relatable. That's how it's different. Because, I didn't tell you this, but we talk all the time is all the marketing you just talked about, the CRMs, the HubSpots, the Salesforce, the email marketing, it's all arm's length. All arm's length. And you know what these people do? Then they go, well, I got to know how these people are thinking. So we'll invent data analytics, which again is still more arm's length.
Right.
I say, would you rather just talk to people? And yes, we have analytics, a full suite. Yes, we do. And you can do A/B split testing. You can do, if you're doing one product against another, you can do all that in Relatable. But I say the most important thing is getting in front of the camera with your audience, with your customer base, with your fans and ambassadors, and getting feedback, interacting, engaging, letting them choose their own experience, but also becoming familiar. I'll tell you a quick story. Jim knows one of my lead developers, Rian. And we were talking about these reminders, and Rian says to me, he goes, well, I don't get it. He goes, why don't we just send him a text message or an email? I said, Rian, look, you and I have been working together for 5 years now. I said, if all I did was send you text messages and Slack, do you think we'd have the same relationship we have now? I've never met the guy in person. It's all been through video. And he sat back in his chair and he went, oh, I get it. You see, because it's this whole interaction with video. Even though I'm not there, we are here together in Dealcasters Live right now.
Right, and we have people that are in the chat too. They, whether it's Richard or Rome or Doc or Scott and all these people that are in here. And apparently, Jim, you need your Doc Pop. Doc has noticed my Doc Pop, but so we have relationships with people that come in on the chat, and there are other live shows. Sometimes you're like the chat's going bonkers. Other times it's not, and you have these relationships with people. You have inside jokes with people, and then by the time you meet them actually in real life, it's like they're all of the there's so much stuff that's out of the way, and this is the person that I already know. And I think what really resonated with me was you were talking about how when someone's creating these relatables, and it's actually the CFO or the CEO or the founder of the company that's actually doing that. And for me, whenever when I'm investing $39 a month for a piece of software, or I'm investing, whatever it is, if I know who the founders are and I'm joining the town hall on Sunday night, or somehow there's just something different about that. And understanding that if I really needed to have a contact with the guys at Ecamm, or if I needed to touch base with somebody that I know at a particular company, there's just something about that gets me more invested in a company. I mean, is that something that resonates with you as well, Peter?
No, that's what you just described is exactly it, Chris, which is you want to be felt like you're being treated like a person, not a wallet. You want to be heard, right? And all the things, the way you just explained it in your own way is exactly what I was talking about. This is what people are looking for and what they want. Here's the thing. I will say this. If you're a busy CEO or founder or whatever, and you have a staff, you can just get in front of the camera and you can do your relatables and you can have the staff build them. They can knock them out for you. You don't have to do them yourself, but I'm saying you do need to get in front of a camera. And the funny thing is, one of our mantras in my company is I say, we eat our own dog food. And what I mean by that is we use the tool probably as much or more than our customers do. And when I built this tool, when I first started, I got deer in headlights. I'm looking at the camera going, what do I say? Right? So, we have AI scripts where AI writes a script. We have manual scripts, and then we have what's called bullet points. And it's kind of like, you remember when you were a kid and you had your first bike and you had the training wheels on your bike, right? And you're going, I can't ride the bike without the training wheels. And then there comes a day, whether your dad rips them off and pushes you, or you say, I'm ready, right? But it's no different than this. After about 3 or 4 videos and you're doing the scripts and things like that, you're going, you know what? I know my stuff. I'm just going to write 3 bullet points. I'm going to talk off the top of my head. All I got to talk, these are, for shorts. I'm just going to talk for 1 minute to 2 minutes, right? It just is getting over that hump. And I tell people all the time, it's like, look, if you have camera anxiety, get over yourself. Just get in there, try it, do it a few times. In fact, if you screw up, even better. I am not about filters. I am not about slick video. I'm about, you talk to these people. And if you happen to screw up a few times, it just makes you more human. They're going, hey, this person's just like me, right? That's relatability.
I love it. Because when things are too polished, I just think the trust. I mean, there's just that balance there where you just are like, listen, and that's why we're live, is because I have perfectionism. It's a huge problem, and I couldn't do anything. I was frozen and I was like, you know what? I'm going to push this big red button and we're going to go. And we're going to create the show and we're going to do this. And I think in a lot of ways, that's what this is, because and that's what scaled what I'm doing, is because people are, and then when I met people, they're like, this is the person that I see live. Right. This is exactly
You're not some polished
person
with filters. Yep, exactly.
Well, and another thing too, Chris, that Peter and I have talked about is, especially because we're kind of talking about AI a little bit earlier, is if I got a video from you that was your AI avatar, and then I find out later that wasn't really you, I'm not going to have that trust. I'm like, what? Why couldn't you take the time, like Peter said, to just take that 1 minute to do a quick video and send it to me, as opposed to having, AI do it for you?
Yeah, to build off what Jim's saying too, Chris, I will tell you, so what I do, and I tell people in our partner program, so if you're on LinkedIn, it doesn't matter, you can be on X or wherever, but I comment, I'll find people that I want to get to know. And so I will, I don't have to connect to them. I'll comment. And the thing I say, this is where Jim was talking about category 1. When you are doing anything online, I will tell people right now, my job is to antagonize the status quo. I hate them. I do not want to be part of the status quo. I want to be my own person. I do me, you do you. But I will comment. The Snow Leopard teaches you, when you are going to write content, do not write content-free dumpster fire garbage content. Like you hear, like, here's my marketing playbook, how I made $600,000 a year, blah, blah. I was in the gutter and I almost died and now I'm a multimillionaire. You've heard all these stupid stories, right? It's all status quo, blah, 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 right? So when I and everybody else that is following Snow Leopard, you're writing content that gets people to think. It's reflective. It's basically you're expressing your unique point of view and change of perspectives in many different ways. So what I do is I go do that and I connect, and the people respond back. They're responding, and some of these people, like I just connected. We have a person coming into our partner program. She has nearly 1 million connections, 1 million followers on LinkedIn. She's an executive producer for Netflix series, for the History Channel. All I did was do that. I contacted, and then here's what I did. I turned on my camera on Relatable. I didn't even put down bullet points. I just turned on the teleprompter that's inside Relatable, and I told her, we'll just call her Sally. I said, hey, Sally, I just want to tell you that I really love the impact that you're making on LinkedIn and the type of content that you're producing. And as you know, we've been commenting back and forth, and I love what you have to say for your audience. And we're trying to make an impact too. This is what Relatable is and does. And I give them just the quickie, and I say, if this resonates with you and you want to set a meeting with me to talk about that, there's going to be an upcoming button. It's my meeting. You can go ahead and set a meeting. If not, that's okay too. We could just keep commenting and following each other's comments. So Jim knows this story, but Chris, I get 80% setting a meeting, and these are big, big influential people.
Yeah.
And I just was in one of my communities the other day. This guy was talking, and he said, someone sent me a video. That wasn't relatable because we hadn't got to that person yet. But he said, I immediately did it. He said, because it's so different. Nobody does it. Everybody's doing DM texting. You know, like if you're on LinkedIn, right? First of all, you get the connection, and then the big no-no is people come in and pitch you, and you go, okay, they're blocked. First of all, that's it. I'm done with that. We all are. That's like getting the robocall. Yep. But the second thing is you come in, they connect, and they start asking you questions. You know, they're trying to sell me, right? BS meter at an all-time high. So you shake your head. We all go through this. But wouldn't it be refreshing and be different if you just came in and said, hey, I'm Chris Stone. I'm just here. I just wanted to get to know you. I'd love to have a meeting with you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to talk to you so we can start a relationship. If you'd like to do that, there's a button coming up. Just go ahead and tap on it and set a meeting. Watch what happens. I mean, you're going to get all kinds of people coming out of the woodwork because you're being yourself, you're being relatable, you're being authentic. And one of the things I still want to mention for anybody on your show, it's free. I don't charge for it. I tell people, look, the relatable tool, it's a cool tool, but it's not as important as guys thinking the framework of how do you reconnect with your relatability? And that means how do you express thinking about them? You know, our top value statement, Jim knows this, is how do we give first, right? And I will always live by that as the founder and CEO of this company. Because when you come at it from a giving perspective and saying, look, I'm not here to sell you something. I'm here to try to help you to give. But I want to connect in a way to you that's relatable and authentic. So I actually wrote a book. It's a part of the category design is you do category design, company design, product design, but then you do a framework. And the framework is the book that I wrote called Be Relatable, The Eye-Opening Habit of a New Category of Human. And that book, for anybody that listens to your show, I'll send it out to them free of charge. It is a methodology and a model of how do you be relatable. If you want to use the tool, great. If you don't, you just want to do it manually, that's okay too. I just want people, the thing that at my age and the number of things I've been through, I want to create impact and a movement. The money will come.
Sure.
The impact is more important, and the movement is how do we create this movement of the relationship economy? That's where we're at. This is not something that is coming. It is here. It's already here. It's just about how do you make that strategic shift now from lead generation over to demand generation.
Wow, that's incredible. And when you were talking about this, and it's like, obviously you're here, Relatable is your product. I think in general, whether you're just, someone that can afford, a video program or whatever, you have to understand, like, I equate it to this. So like we have this program that we use called Podmatch. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Peter, but it's basically like, it's a dating service for podcasters. Like, am I going to have this guest on my show, or, if I'm a guest, can I be on this particular host? And it is shocking to me, Peter, how many people put themselves out there as potential podcast guests and they don't have video. And I just think to myself, okay, I understand that the podcast medium in and of itself, can be only audio. And so I totally understand that. And I'm, I'm an audio nerd, and that's where it started for me. But like, if you're not doing video with it, you're just not choosing to be as relatable to other people as possible. And so when I'm looking at for my clients, potential people that could be on their shows, and they don't have a YouTube channel, or they don't have a video when you open up their profile to say, "Hi, I'm Peter. I'd love to be on your show," or whatever. It is, you're just missing that element of potential for you to do that and be able to do it. Like you just said, get over yourself. And, this is, it's 2024, and we have to fire up the camera, and we have to start, really being more relatable to people. And I don't know why that when you were talking about that, I was like, oh my God, on Podmatch, nobody's got these videos. And I like you 9 times out of 10, I'm passing on these people because they don't have a way for me to actually see how they show up.
Yeah.
Well, and Chris, and I'll let Peter talk about this, but one of the things that Peter's actually started doing and is doing it with a relatable, it's like you can create a relatable to kind of create that, are you, a good candidate for our show? And Peter, you want to talk about how you and Mary Catherine are doing that?
Yeah. So we started a podcast show called Can You Relate? And we'll probably have you guys on too, because we're looking for people that are making an impact and have a possibility for a movement, right? If you look at, there's so many cool stories. I mean, I'm a big Steve Jobs fan, and he was around. He actually was the forefather of category design. You guys probably remember in 2007 when he was up on stage and he held up the iPhone and he said, "This is a new category of communication device." This is before Play Bigger, before any of this stuff, before, my friend Christopher Lockhead and his friends wrote that book. But, this podcast is really about having those kind of people. So I said, well, look, eat your own dog food. We have a relatable, it's called the Guest Interactive. And I'm on there talking to them and I'm going, hey, I want to find out a little bit more about you and ask a series of questions, right? So if they answer the certain questions right, which means they are making an impact, they do have some form of a movement, they go into, okay, here's where you sign up for the show, blah, blah, blah. If they don't, then it's like, hey, we'll be in touch with you soon. And here's some more information about our show and what we're looking for, right? But we do get, we will get in touch with them and things like that. But these relatables for people who do lives or podcasts, you can use them for guest screening. You can use them for these reminder systems. You can use them for your back end, selling your products or services, whatever you want to do. I want to just create something that was the entire customer journey, the entire client journey. But like you said, Chris, see, I look at it like this. I think it goes even beyond what you said, Chris. I think right now in this day and age, it's disrespectful to your customers and clients if you're not on video talking to them. I really do. Because it's like, think about it this way. You talk about relationships, right? Chris, let's say your significant other, your wife or significant other, right? If all you did, like I said with Rion, was text that person or email that person, but you never were in front of them talking to them. And this is the best we can do with video, but we are in front of each other talking. I mean, don't you think that's a little disrespectful to that person?
100%.
That's the way I look at it. So I tell people, that's why I say get over yourself, because if you really care about people and you really care about your customers and you really want to create interaction and reach out across the aisle to them, you can't be there physically, like I said, for every single customer, especially if you have a large customer base, but you can certainly be there for them in video and you can talk face to face. I mean, think about what our world would be like if the politicians used a tool like Relatable and had a series of fireside chats with their constituency, asking them what they thought about when this upcoming vote's going to happen. What would that be like? It's like, wow, that would be like super cool because that means they're actually listening to me. I voted them into office. Relatable could do that too. This is where it's like thinking differently. This is the framework of being relatable. That's why I say you start with the framework. You reconnect. We all have our relatability. I mean, I'll tell you just a quick story. So
Please.
In all my travels, I've been to Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia. I've been to India. I've been all over Asia, all over Europe, China, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, everywhere it's South America, different countries in South America. And you know what I found out as a young man when I would sit and for example, you go into Abu Dhabi, beautiful, beautiful. But it's about as different as it can be from a cultural differences, right? And how they view women and things like that, right?
Right.
So I don't agree with everything they do, but I would sit with different families when I was over there on business, and I have to go through, sometimes through a translator. But here's the thing, no matter where you go in the world, when you start talking about family, love, kindness, fairness, empathy, compassion. It is the same everywhere. Everywhere you go, it's the same. And so it dawned on me, it's like, wow, there is some, I don't know if you guys are fans of Stephen Covey with the 7 Habits. That's a story. I met Stephen Covey. I got to talk to him one time, and I had a real defining moment. We have time. I'll tell that story here. But the thing is, it's about being relatable. It's getting into those foundational principles, not focusing so much about, hey, what am I going to sell you in my product or service? It's how am I going to connect with you? If you look, and you're going to hear more about this, we are shifting away from B2B and B2C to H to H, human to human. And you're going to see more and more of that stuff fading away with the attention economy and lead gen, and more in the relationship economy, human to human connection, and creating demand for products and services. And you let the buyer choose that journey towards demand, because that's what they're doing already, right? So.
Good stuff. This is like we absolutely need to do the Stephen Covey story, maybe in part 2 when we do this. But we're already at time. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you're checking out. We've got all of the links in the show notes for the audio podcast as well as the video podcast. home.relatable.pro. Check out Relatable, future-proof your business. Relatable fits how people can buy from you at scale, and a cute little jalapeno. That's just side note there. Jim, take us home, sir.
Yeah, this has been great, Peter. I love what we're doing. I love all the advancements. It's not like anything's being sat on, continuing to evolve and make it sticky for people. So, thank you for joining us. We'll have to do this again sometime soon. And what's the best way for people to connect with you, Peter?
Probably, a lot of you, I'm sure, that are listening, just go to LinkedIn, look up Peter Lisoskie. My name's right up there. You can connect with me there. And I'm be happy to talk with you. If you want to set up a time to have a quick meeting, just so I always tell people, look, the best way to start a relationship is through a video chat. So, my dad told me, my last closing remarks, my dad was a full-blooded Ukrainian. And when I was a little boy, he used to call me Piotr, because Piotr is in Russian or Ukrainian for Peter. And he goes, you don't Piotr. He goes, in life, you talk to everybody, because number one, you don't know what they know, and number two, you don't know who they know. And I talk to homeless people, I talk to everybody, all the way up to CEOs, executives, because everybody has a story and everybody is relatable. And at the end of the day, I'll bring it home with, guys, if you don't believe it now. People do business with people they like, know, and trust.
Awesome. Good stuff. So it's not only what they know, but who they know.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
I could go through, I'll tell you, look, so I got stories with Stephen Covey. My brother-in-law was Doug Crichton, who's Michael Crichton's brother. Michael Crichton, Jurassic Park. I have a whole story about Doug Crichton. He's the longest survivor of bone marrow cancer. He gave me 7 key questions. There's all kinds of stuff about life. If you guys want to get into stuff like that, I have so many stories of talking to different people around the world, going to ancient temples. I met a witch lady thing that she read my bones in Taiwan, and she said I was going to get a divorce, and I did. I mean, I could tell you all kinds of things that happened to me. I mean, just crazy stories, about different people I've met in my life. Some notable, some not, but, impactful kind of thing.
That sounds like after party content there, Peter.
Yeah, we can turn Dealcasters live into Dealcasters party. Everybody grab a whiskey and let's talk.
Let's do it. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you connect with Relatable and Peter on LinkedIn, Peter Lisoskie. And as always, don't fear the gear.